So we'll be continuing our talks on Sanyam, which is the second step in the sadhana of Mahavir. The first was, as we talked about, non-violence. A lot of definitions have to be in a negativistic way, non-violence. Only reason because the positive state that Mahavir was in, there are no words. Words are coming from the material things. We are matter. Our language is matter. Our approach is all four-dimensional. So descriptions, our languages are all evolved around the four dimensions. All languages except Sanskrit has been developed in four dimensions. Sanskrit is developed in a fifth dimension where actual experiences have happened and then they have come out in words. But even those words, there are no exact translations available in the other languages which were developed by people like you and me. Versus that's why they always say Sanskrit is a language of gods. And it is literally. If you really try to understand the meanings of this and you meditate along with this, you will really understand the meaning of it also. So most of these words are going to be described as not this, not this, not this. But the positive state that Mahavir was in, it only can be experienced. So just like when we say non-violence, because we know violence. Violence everybody knows. So when we say non-violence, is a direction that it wants to take us. And Mahavir wants to take it into a state where it's not that not killing, not killing, not killing, but you don't even have a desire. You have positive feeling of love and friendship for the whole world. And that feeling only you can experience. You cannot describe in words. So we are moving on to Sanyam. And Sanyam is a state of expressing your samyak state we talked about last time. If one word you want to get from Mahavir, in the whole philosophy of Mahavir, there is only one word that you can get out of it, is a samyak state. Samyak state is a state where you are in a shunya state. And Sanyam is your ability to remain in a samyak state in any life situations. Because samyak state is something once you reach there and you stay there, once you enjoy the joys of being in the samyak state, Sanyam is what's going to follow. Because in a samyak state, once you experience the joy, which is the positive feeling of the samyak state, will dim all the joys of the day-to-day life so much that you will not have desires. So far all the religions have been always saying that don't do this, don't steal, don't do this, don't do adultery, don't do this, don't lie, don't cheat. All these things have been said in a negativistic way, but nobody has said what to do, how to do it. Because say stealing is fun, because you get something that you always wanted. But when where is the problem? So they say, well, yeah, but what will happen to the other? But yeah, it doesn't matter what happened to me. I got something out of it. But why do we have a desire to steal in the first place? That's what Mahavir goes down into the first place. And so he analyzes the whole your inner psyche and bring you to the spot of your mind, where the problem is at your mind level. The problem is, and one sentence that really came out of the Osho's learnings that I have done is that we always doubt everybody, but we never doubt our mind. Our mind, we have lived the life of a mind all the time. We firmly believe that whatever mind is doing has to be perfectly okay, because out of the body and the mind being the most swiftest, we trust the mind because mind is superior to the body. But we have never seen anything superior than the mind, which is your soul. That's why we trust. And the whole meditation and sadhana is all about finding something that is higher than the mind. We do things mechanically. I have a friend, very close friend. His cholesterol has come back high. And for the first time now, sugar is high. Oh, that's because I have stress. And stress does that to me. We never, and that's another explanation given by the mind. Mind gives already an explanation. Keep doing what you're doing. It's an indirect way of saying, keep eating whatever you're eating. Keep doing no exercise, lack of activity, be overweight, no problem. Mind is there to protect you. Mind takes you to the extremes. There was a one guy came to Osho, very rich guy, had a lot of factories in US and had a lot of money, accumulated a lot of wealth, but he had no happiness. And he told Osho, I want to do something about it. I want real, true happiness in life. So he says, ध्यान करो, do ध्यान. He says, yeah, ध्यान में मन नहीं लगता. Now look at the statement. Dhyan is a no-mindness. Now he's asking his own mind, should I do dhyan or not? And he's getting the answer from the mind, says no, it's too boring. Dhyan mein man nahi lagta. So Osho says that it's almost like you have bacteria in your body and you're asking bacteria, should I give the medication or not? Mind is a disease. And you're asking the mind, should I take dhyan or not? So that's where all these conflicts happen. And these are the conflicts which prevent us from going further deep in. So samyak state is a state where you actually realize the existence of your soul. You come to visualize, you come to experience your state where your soul becomes everything. That's why I like the word Atmavan. You know what that means? Atmavan. Atma is your soul, Van is the body. So far, you thought body was you and mind was you. For the first time, when you go deep into the meditation and you realize the existence of your soul, Atma becomes your Van. Anybody who is in a samyak state will be walking around with the body of the soul, mind of the soul, and existence of the soul, and the physical body and physical mind will become peripheral. So Atmavan is a state. So Sanyam, in a traditional way, if you ask people, they say it's control. Oh, I'm trying to control. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to give up this sugar. I'm going to give up this fatty foods, and I'm going to bring my cholesterol. This is all playing at the material level. You have not seen the strength of the soul itself. So that's why the samyak state is so important, to make it a positive approach in life where the inner strength is coming out in the form of your soul. So realization of your soul is a samyak state. Samyak state is very effortless. There are no efforts at all. First we make the efforts to eat wrong things, and then we make efforts to go in the other directions, and we do fastings. We do this, but we are always doing something. To do something, you need mind. Mind says, okay, no problem, I accepted it, that I overdid it, but I'm going to take you to another spot. Again, you're depending on the mind. We think that mind is everything. So either you are stretching a rubber band to the left or to the right. But if you leave the rubber band as it is, we are not ready for that, because that's the death of the mind. We are not ready to die yet. Mahamrutyu, that's what they say in spirituality. You die only once. This is the death of your mind and death of your body. The death of the body happens to everyone. But when the death of the mind happens, that's the real death. And that's one death. Once you go through, you don't have to get to the another deaths at all, because then you will not be born again either, because your desires, which are all part and parcels of the mind, are also gone. But we are not ready for it. And that's why the cycle just keeps going on and on and on. Our mind is restless. It always wants to think. It always thinks, but we're not realizing that behind these thoughts, it's our chetana, our awareness is also going with it. Our awareness becomes a servant of the mind. Mind wants to do this. Awareness says, okay, let's go with it. Let's do it. Awareness in the form of God. Awareness is the expression of this consciousness, Sat, Chit and Anand. God has given us so much freedom to the point that we can go to destructions even. In our self-destructive mode, God says, I love you so much that I want to give you ultimate freedom. You think that you're lacking something in life, go ahead. But find out what does it do for you. You overeat, fine, no problem. But can you be aware of your sufferings? If you're not, then you have not suffered enough. So go, suffer. It's like mother takes the children to the playground. Okay, go play. No problem. At the end, all the kids know that the mother is always there to take care of. So with that knowledge, they can jump around, climb, fall, hurt themselves, everything. But the mom is always there to take care of. That way, God is watching over us. It does not let us die because there is no death. It gives us an illusion of the death and the birth and sufferings and all that. But someday he's hoping that we'll come back to him. So Samyak state is a method to go back to God. So mind always thinks wherever we feel deficient. Whenever we think that we are lacking something, mind wants to go and think about it. The existence of the name Vedas came from the word Vedana. Vedana is suffering. Suffering, the Veda is a solution to your suffering. There is only one suffering in our whole life. In the human kinds, one suffering is lack of knowledge of the self. We do not know God, and that's why we are suffering. Vedas were created as a solution to eliminate your Vedana, your sufferings. So whenever the tooth that we were never thinking about, all of a sudden the tooth starts bothering you, all your attention goes into that tooth. And then you want to do something that will fix it. So you go to the dentist and you get the treatments and things like that. So suffering in a way is good. It makes you realize, but only if it is backed by the awareness. But the mind does not want you to be aware. Mind wants you to keep in the loop. And we've been doing this for multiple lives. Our ego has been running around. So little bit of awareness, little bit of separation from the mind is needed, and that's what Dhyan is going to offer to you. So we always talk about the things that we want to think that that's the most important thing. As long as we don't have diamonds, what do we have in our hands? We have stones. Imagine if you go to an island which is full of stones, and the guy has never seen a diamond. How are you going to describe a diamond to somebody who has seen nothing but the stones? He says, oh, the stone? Oh, yeah, but it's better than the stone. What can be better than a stone? That's all we know. Oh, you can see through it. You can see through a stone? How is it possible? It shines too. No, stones don't shine. So whatever knowledge that we have at the mind level is so primitive. So until you experience your samyak state, you will think that this is all I have, and this is all I know, and this is worth going after. And that's what you're going to keep doing it. So it's like there was a story. So the boy is living in the house, and the mother tells the boy that we're going to have a visitor today. Now the visitor had no nose. He had a plastic surgery and had a cancer of the nose, and the nose was taken out. So because the boy does not create a problem and create an embarrassing situation, so mom told the boy, said, do whatever, just don't talk about his nose, all right? So the boy is sitting quietly. The guest walks in. He looks at it. There is no nose. Mom, how are we going to talk about the nose? It's not there even. So just the fact that if the boy was not even told, he might not have looked at the nose even. He might have passed his awareness. But all of us are realized, because mom talked about the nose is not there. So mom, what am I going to talk about? The nose is not even there. So, so we always talk about the things that we are missing. We talk about people who won't have desires for food. You keep an eye on them. All they talk about is food. 80% of their talk revolves around food. What kind of gourmet dishes they're making, what kind of recipes, they're exchanging the recipes. The same person, you meet him next month, now he's talking about how to lose weight, what kind of diet to go on, what kind of exercise to do. You should do this, you should do this. He's continuously occupied. For Mahavir, mind is like a cloud generating machine. The clouds are being formed all the time. When all the clouds disappear, that's when you reach the thoughtless state. There is zero thoughts. Thoughts are like clouds. Mahavir wants you to have a perfect day, a cloudless day, when there are no clouds in the sky and the sun in the form of brightest of the brightest awareness is shining through the whole sky. And that's what the state of Samyak state. That's why Buddha was called Buddha, because his buddhi, the intellect, was at the sharpest of the sharpest possible that can be achieved by a human mind. So the whole goal is to reach where every single action is analyzed by your Samyak state, rather than Samyak person will not be overdoing on the food, and obviously he will not have to go to this extreme to lose weight either. The same way Samyak vichar, Samyak speech, Samyak love. Mahavir wants your charitra to be Samyak. Samyakta has to spread into every single thing that you do. Samyak love is something that cannot be altered by the outside forces. A true love, which does not even need an outside object. You become loveful because the Samyak state is a gift of the consciousness, where you are totally steady, you are total much in control, and you are totally composed in such a way that your senses, which normally feed the outside world to you, have any chance of affecting that Samyak state. The senses become the slaves of Atmavan person who is totally immersed in his own soul in a Samyak state. So if I have a love, period. Because that's the nature of my Samyak state. Whether somebody says anything to me, somebody does anything to me, it doesn't matter. My Samyak love will not be affected by any external factors. Because external factors are what? They are the things that are derived from the other world, from the five senses. Whatever senses are telling me, so far were controlled by the mind, but the mind is not there anymore. So there are no contradictory things that will affect my expression of love. The same way, Samyak speech. We speak when we don't have to speak, and we don't speak when we have to speak. There are a lot of situations where even a single sentence has created havocs in your life. Beautiful relationship might have been broken down just by something that you said, and then later on you said that I should not have said that. But then again, the damage is already done. Same way, Samyak vichar. We think when we don't have to think, and we don't think when we have to think. Samyak nidra, Samyak ahar. We wake up when we needed more sleep, we wake up anyway. And we sleep through the mornings when we were supposed to wake up, and we wake up, go to the parties at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and then we don't wake up till 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. So all this samyakta is lost, and that's why the suffering has to happen. So we always want to cover, the mind is always make you running for the things that it thinks you're lacking. I have patients, I walk into the nursing homes, and one of the busiest place in the nursing homes is the beauty parlor. I mean, these are the people who are 85, 90-year-old, but they have to have a perfect makeup. They have to have a dyed colored hair, and the lipstick and everything has to be taken care of and all that. To the rest of the world, it doesn't really matter, but that's what we do. We cover up a lot of things, and the makeup is needed because there are a lot of sufferings. So mind thinks that these are the things which are lacking. So our mind keeps you continuously occupied to cover up the deficiencies that we think there are deficiencies. So Mahavir's game is at the mind level, not at the physical level. When you live at the mind level, when you donate, whether you physically donate or not, did you donate at the mind level or not? That's more important. Because donating at the mind level is what's going to make your mind empty. And that's what Mahavir wants. Mahavir says empty mind is a alley through which you can enter into the samyak state. Mind has to be gotten rid of the possession, a true possession of your milkat, of your all the money that you have, all the acquisitions that you had. If you can give up the possessiveness on that, that's the real achievement. Whether you physically give away the money or not is not important. And even if you do it, if you give up at the physical level and not at the mind level, you have not done anything. You have wasted your life because you came, you lived in the material world, and you're living this material world. Till the last minute of the death, people have desires. Desires continuously make us occupied in the material world. So life goes on, and there was a beautiful movie. It was a water, wasn't it? It was a beautiful movie filmed near the Ganges, and was a story of widows. Actually, the widow house, where they're supposed to keep the widows after. And this is the ancient story based on our ancient cultures, that the widows are not really supposed to interact with the rest of the society. So all the widows have to stay together, and they're supposed to be devoting themselves to God. And I remember one scene. There's an elderly lady, all because they were supposed to bow down to the God and take away all the pleasures of life, and all she wanted was a mithai before she dies, because the laddu, she kept on dreaming because it was tightly controlled. Of course, that's not the way it's supposed to be, but I'm just saying. So that's how the grip of the mind on the life is, and we keep on repeating. We keep on repeating after the objects of the pleasures, that our ties with these objects of pleasure continuously get stronger and stronger and stronger. Then all of a sudden we say, oh, retired, now let's start doing the dharma. But all our ties have become so strong that it's very difficult. So the time to do dharma is the youngest possible you are. That doesn't mean you give up things. That doesn't mean you don't consume those objects of pleasure, but you do it with awareness. The full awareness is what is needed. But by the time you retire and then you think that now I'm going to go to the temples and spend time. I just had a patient the other day. He was hardly like 34, 35-year-old, suffering with anxieties. I think I mentioned last talk. And he's very smart. He used to be in spirituality and all that, but he came out and now he has IT field. He's a lot of anxiety, and then I gave him the medications. He came back. Doc, everything makes sense, but don't you think I'm a little too young for all these things? So people have no concept.
Yeah, but that has been drilled in our culture.
Exactly.
And only at the later age you should do
right,
it.
Yeah. So that's why we had this, the Van Prasthasans and all the divisions of life, and people are following so rigidly that it's been depth in that actually the earlier you start is the best way to do it, if you can understand the spirituality in its truest possible way.
When I went for teacher training, I was 34.
Right.
And there was tremendous resistance from my family that
Sure.
as if I'm going to become sadhu.
Exactly, right, yeah. So the problem is that mind wants things, and we believe the mind, so we always think that something is missing in life. And mind exists only by creating a goal. From your zero position that you are right now to whatever position the mind wants to take you, it maps out all the journey, all the pointers are marked that, okay, this is what you're gonna do, and ultimately you reach there. This is how the mind exists. But if in a shunya state, there are no desires, and that's why the mind dies. But all the satisfactions that you get after achieving things, you have to realize that new goals are already present. Once you think that I'm going to have that gulab jambu or ice cream or something, I'm going to feel satisfied. But then there are more objects to consume. And not only that, you're forming a vritti of doing things to achieve things. So your vritti about going into the world, which Patanjali describes as abhinivesh,
Vasana.
lust for life, that you look at the life as your ultimate giver. So as long as the life is the giver, God cannot be the giver. God never forces himself. So either you go this way or that way. So as you are forming more and more vrittis and vasanas, now you are in a rut. You don't even know what you are doing these things for. You're going into the rut of accumulating money, but then you keep accumulating the money till you die. And then you never realize that what were you accumulating the money for. You were supposed to have security, so then after you are secure, you can move on into the godhood. But you forget, because now you have a habit. Now you don't do the things just for yourself. Now you're retired. Now you keep a mess up your your son's affairs, and then your grandchildren's affairs. Oh, you don't know anything. I did so much, you should be doing this, you should be doing this. Now, you never wanted to believe anybody's advice, and luckily you did well, but now you want to give advice to your children and then grandchildren until you die. And then they say, thank God, he's gone. So, desires are there because you're feeling incomplete. Shunya state is the only state you can feel complete, because there are no boundaries. It's infinite. Shunyata is Purnata. And this is the secret of spirituality. When you experience Shunyata, you feel so complete that you have no desires left. And it's a positive thing. But people who are filled with desires, they would look at it, they say, no desires? Then there is no fun. Because that's the only fun they have seen. They have never seen the fun of Shunyata. Shunya state is the ultimate joy.
Then desire becomes things you can play with rather
Right.
than you chasing them.
Exactly.
It's a play then, life.
So, Samyak state is what that generates the gap between your running after the food or running away from the food. So, that is a state, it's very short, and nobody has time to observe. For example, if you ate gulab jamun, right? You ate first one, and then second one, and the third one, right? And then you're getting fed up. That being fed up state, if you can really observe it, can throw you into the higher ground and make a big philosophical fact out of your observation and the awareness state that doing anything repeated ultimately makes you bored. But we never think, but we're always looking at the next one. Then, okay, I'm just gonna go to the point that I'm gonna fall asleep, and then next day the same desire comes back again. And we miss our opportunity. So the opportunity to arise, the whole anshan that Mahavir had recommended, the whole philosophy behind that was that you overeat, but then you fast. But when you go from overeating to the fasting, there is a short segment of your awareness which is not focused on anything, not on the food, and you have not gone into, that's the time. So that's why all these tricks have been given by Shiv to Parvati. In which scripture was that? So there are thousands of techniques that you breathe out and you breathe in. And the state that is in between is the key to reach God. So breathing out, you are a doer. Breathing in, you are a doer. In between, you are not doing anything. So that's the best chance to experience the non-doership. Doership requires the ego. Ego requires the mind. Mind requires the world to operate. And then perpetual cycle just keeps going on. So non-doership is a window, very narrow window, you can jump out of it. Because also doing an action puts you in the future. You gathering your past, that okay, you liked gulab jambu, and now you want another gulab jambu. So that gulab jambu has not gone into your mouth yet. So you're looking into the future. So either you are using past or you're using the future, but you're never in the present. In the present moment is the gateway to enter into heaven. That's why the book, say, Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle, one of the best books I have read. So the present mindedness where even in the present state the mind actually disappears. There is no mind. But we keep on catering to the ego, and the ego keeps on getting bigger and bigger, more and more money, more and more pleasures, more and more parties, more and more drinks, more and more this, more and more that. The ego keeps on getting, we keep on doing what our mind actually is a very precious gift of the spirituality. This is the mind that is not present in all the lower levels of animals, do not have that. This is the first gift of consciousness given to us, is the mind. But instead of utilizing the mind in a positive way and going back to the consciousness, we waste it on all these unnecessary foods, right? So the ego has become so big. Do you know the story of that bird, a warbler? There is a beautiful bird. It's a regular bird, warbler, and there is another bird called cuckoo. And it's, you know, the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, right? So cuckoo does a very beautiful trick. What it will do is, when it's time to lay the eggs, it will go and put it in the warbler's nest. And it is little bigger than the other eggs, but the warbler mother does not notice that. So it keeps taking care of the egg. And ultimately the baby bird, cuckoo, comes out, and the mother gets attached even without noticing all the differences between the other babies and the cuckoo's baby. And the cuckoo actually keeps on getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It becomes 3 times the size of the warbler itself, the mother. And yet it keeps on feeding as if its own baby. So the ego has eaten away our spiritual energy so much, and we keep on catering. We not only cater to it, we fight for it. We fight, we have arguments, we fight for our rights to eat cookies, eat this and eat that. We are never realizing that this is stupidity. We are catering to an ego which is an illusion, and is taking us into all these sufferings and all the falls of life. I have seen people dying, obesities, diabetes, heart attacks, all these things, and cancers, and yet we keep on catering to all the things. I had one patient, this guy had, one of the patients had lung cancer, and he just couldn't stop smoking, even though he knew. He said, "Doc, at this point, what's the point? I got what I got. I'm gonna keep on smoking my way out, no problem." And same thing, diabetics. They already know their sugars are high. They cannot do anything about it. They keep on munching. That's it. The whole India operates like that.
The whole India works on that.
Yeah, whole India works on that. Exactly. Yeah, right, exactly. It becomes acceptance.
Exactly.
It's a total acceptance. So that's another argument of the mind. Mind says it's okay. What is wrong with this? So the warbler keeps on feeding to the baby cuckoo, which is 3 times the size of her own, and yet it never thinks that life is any different. So it's an amazing trick, but there's a lot to learn.
Some people say I'd rather take medication,
Than diet.
I'd rather eat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that to make a change in your life, you need to raise your awareness. And that's the most difficult part. I would rather not be aware. So I would rather be drunk under the effect of the ego. Whether keep doing wrong things. Same thing, junkies, the people taking drugs. They know it's bad. Do you think everybody who comes into my office, they know what to do? They just can't do it. That's why they are in my office. Fine, it's fine with me. But, but it's not fine with me because it hurts me. Yesterday I had a patient. He was a Jain guy, Shah, and I told him about the vegan. Luckily we were not that busy. So I told him about the whole lecture on veganism. And sometimes I get carried away, and I feel bad that I take away so much time of the patient. He says, no, doc, you opened my eyes. I never thought that all these things are there, and I kept on doing without my knowledge, and I never was aware of so much suffering that the cows have to go through. All these things, I was totally oblivious, and I call myself Jain. He says, that's my New Year resolution. I'm going to be vegan, for sure. And he even knew. I asked him, what is Pratikraman? I said, you do Pratikraman all the time, right? I said, what does that mean? For the first time, I got a right answer from a Jain. He says, Atikraman is attack on the world, material world. Pratikraman is going against and attacking your own soul, and find out what are your deficiencies, what are your kasais, mad, moh, krodh, maya. What are you doing about those? You are born with them because of your vrittis and vasana. You brought them from your previous life, and you keep on catering to them. The egos keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's why we have more and more material pleasures in life, and you die with that, even bigger ego than you started with. And next life, again your vrittis and vasanas are not going to die out. You're going to be born again with the same thing again. What are you doing a thing about it? Dharma is transformation. If you want transformation, this is the only solution. Samyak state is a state where you can see the difference. You can see your follies. You can see your stupidities, what you've been doing so far. But hanging out with the same crowd, hanging out with the same people who are doing the same thing.
Comfort zone.
Comfort zone. It's never going to make you realize that what you are should be doing. So one hand washes the another hand. And that's how the groups are formed. That's how the friend circles are formed. That's how the parties exist. And that's how everything slacked into this and slacked into that, and okay, nothing until something suddenly happens. And they say, yes.
So what you talked about that warbler and cuckoo,
Right.
how would you characterize a motherly love
Mm-hmm.
feeding her own child
Right,
who is obese?
right, right,
You know, keep feeding more and more,
Agreed.
and knowing
right.
that it's not.
There are
healthy for
consequences
the
to
person,
that.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's why parents need to be aware first, and then the child can be aware. The awareness has to filter through. So far, awareness has not seen any ways. Very few Buddhas and Mahavirs are born once every 2,000-3,000 years. And they come and go, but the world just keeps on going like that. And it's getting worse and worse day by day, by the hour. More and more new inventions are coming out. 5-hour energy, gulping up, but go to the parties 2-3 o'clock in the morning, gulp a drink, do the job, come home, do it again. Whole world is catering to this materialistic views.
I think the best way will be to start teaching a student in the school meditation.
Agree.
That's the
I
best
think
way.
meditation
Really,
should be the
we-
only religion in the world.
Even if
There
they
is
can
no
do
need
or
for
not,
any
just
other
sit there with
religions.
closed eyes.
No, they get into meditation like this. If
Very
you just
easy.
you have to provide the space.
This is happening now because my CEO, she actually showed me a video of her children's, like her daughter is like only like 6-7 years old, and she doing meditation.
Good,
Right.
And
Well, I mean, things are filtering. Somebody sent me the email about Henry Ford's great-grandson. He married to a Bengali woman, and then he adopted Hinduism, gave up the Christianity. It doesn't matter what religion you adopt.
It doesn't
but
matter.
what he's talking about is really making sense. He says the ultimate is the goal should be the pure bliss, ananda state. And that you can have it 24/7. And that is possible only in a meditative state. In a samyak state where you have total peace, that peace cannot be broken. So he has a positive approach. And I'm sure awareness is going to rise little by little, but before that is going to take a lot of victims with it, unfortunately.
That's why, Osho, he made a very opening statement when I went to Pune first time.
Right.
He said, world has only two options, either meditation or world war.
Yes, exactly. One or the other. Which you
This
choose.
is the opening statement.
Yes,
in Pune,
absolutely.
if you go,
See, the powerful, once you have the power of awareness, awareness can do a lot of miracles. You look at the lot of inventions happened only from the pure awareness. Einstein, for example, he was a
example.
dropout. He was a dropout in one of the schools that he applied. He was rejected. And then one of the places he hardly finished the graduation, and his father was totally disappointed on him. And then he worked as a postal clerk, which was one of the lowest job, but his mind never stopped. The power of observation never went. So far, greatest of the greatest, Harvard and Princeton graduates accepted the world as it is. But one thinker, but because his thoughts were inspired from the samyak state, from the higher state,
pure consciousness.
pure consciousness, he said, and you know how the theory of relativity came, that if a woman is standing, if a lightning strikes exactly at say 10 feet on each side, the woman will perceive both the bolts at the same time. Fine. So for her, both the phenomena are happening at the same time, right? But supposing, say, I am sitting on a train and all his experiments were thought experiments. He never sat in a lab, right? He says if a train is traveling, say, at 150 miles an hour, goes from when the bolts are striking, and if he's traveling at 150 miles an hour, he crosses the first bolt at one time, and then it will take few seconds before he reaches the second bolt. If he measures, there is a time gap between the two bolts. So that means he realized that time is different for different people. So that's how the relativity theory came up, that we accept absolute time. Absolute time is only when we synchronize our watches, we're living in the same speed, and our speeds are no different. We exist on the same plane, fine. We talk about the time, fine. But so far we thought that time was an absolute thing. Under the Newtonian physics, time was an absolute thing, that time cannot be changed. And all of a sudden the revolution happened. So Einstein says, it's all relative. Your time and my time are different.
That's
Time
why,
can be changed.
that's why
Time
if you
can be
go
warped,
for a driving license test, they say 2-second rule, you know.
right?
2-second rule.
Mhm.
How many of you know? Those who have given tests recently, they will know.
Response time,
No. You pass the first pole
right?
and you pass the second pole. Between there is a see, you're going at a 30
Right,
miles per hour and you're going at a 60 miles per hour.
right.
2 seconds will be different.
Sure.
So
Agree.
distance between two car,
Agree.
the distance between two car is
Right.
2 seconds.
2 seconds. It should
Right?
take.
Otherwise the police can give you a ticket.
Right.
Actually that's a law written.
Oh, wonderful.
So when you
I
pass,
never knew about
yeah,
that. I knew the car lengths. You
it
should
has
keep.
come from
Yeah,
Einstein.
Right.
one-
I see.
They have derived from
2
Einstein's
seconds, right.
relativity.
Amazing.
One car.
Same thing on Charles Darwin. So far, so many generations came before him. Nobody thought about the evolution until he walks onto the Galapagos Islands and he sees the finches and the different birds. All different islands had different birds. Now, I mean, same birds, same species of birds, but their beaks were different. He says, why? Why are the same species of birds have different beaks? Because the source of food was different. Some of the places had vegetations had only thicker seeds. To break them, they had to have a thick and a very short pointed beak. But other places, the food was softer, so they had a longer beaks. Now, nobody had thought about all these things. Now, when you are bogged by your past, and when you are bogged by the future, when you are bogged by to achieve things and go this and running after this and running after that and objects of pleasures and thinking of gulab jamun, you're never going to pay attention to the finches, right? Finches are the last thing. Come on, yaar, let's the party is waiting, yaar. Who cares about finches? Come on, you're a nerd. Right. That's what it is. But that's where the inventions happen. Charles Darwin changed the whole world. Einstein changed the whole world. That's where the inventions happen. So mind, no matter how much we think is most important, is the least important thing. On the contrary, that's what creates hindrances from reaching to the state where you can actually do things for the world. It's more important to be in a samadhi state than invent the things that can help and make more money for yourself and for your corporate entities and things like that. That's the true state, Rutambara state, where you are in that state where
And
you can.
team building will be fantastic.
Exactly.
If everybody
So,
meditates.
All the corporate culture can change if everybody decides to be in a Samyak state of Mahavir. So Mahavir says Samyak state is a very pristine state, and we all should make the efforts. And every single person will have a different diseases, different objects, different enemies within themselves, they will have to fight. But unless we go within, we will never even know what our diseases are, what our enemies are. We have to weed out our enemies, and we have to know where the fixing needs to be done. But if you need to fix a problem, you got to be able to observe it. And for observation, you need drashta drashti. That's what you need to do in meditation. You learn how to observe the mind. And when you observe the mind, you're walking away from the mind. Not only you will pick up the stupidities of the mind, but all the pitfalls that were kind of taking you away, and all the energy that you were holding on to that is coming free of charge from the consciousness, you were wasting on all these objects of desires and objects of pleasures and winning, trying to win the arguments and fighting and fixing the world and all these things. The word is continence. The continence of the energy versus incontinence, where you are incontinent of stools and urine, how our old elderly patients are. This is continence. You're holding on to your energy. And you see the waste of energy which was being incontinent. So whichever sense is being incontinent, you pay attention to it, and the awareness will fix your incontinence. Literally. And all this process takes place within you.
But
Until
this
then,
this was consciously practiced